Teens going their own way. MGTOW is growing, but it's no longer just about men. For a number of years now, a number of men have been going their own way, but increasingly, teenage boys have also been joining in the movement. Now, before I go into in-depth analysis of what is going on, I'd like to first remind you that this channel is sponsored by you, the viewing audience. Empire Valves, that's one word, empirevalves.myshopify.com for fantasy-themed artifacts based on my writing, coffee cups, travel mugs, and more to come. Thank you for your support. Now, MGTOW is an offshoot of the men's right movement, but it's not stuck down in tackling issues. No, it's about men who go their own way, away from women, particularly dating, marriage. And many, of course, have vowed not to have children. Essentially, MGTOW is a statement about living life your way, not her way. Rather than trying to make women happy, they're focused on themselves. Why? Because they don't want to be a cliche, a slave, a provider, a tool of cultural expectations. There is no rulebook. It's a mindset. Though there are purists in the movements, not everyone holds up to every single tenet every single time. There are those who are extreme, those who are moderate. But there's no purity test. There's no membership fees. There's no central committee. There's hopefully no finger waggers, although occasionally there are some people, I think, who do need their fingers wagged at when they try to make MGTOW into something that it's not. Merely, MGTOW is men who've had enough. Enough of feminization, enough of feminism, and enough of the crap. The crap from the government in particular. They're tired of being told what a man is. They're told they have to work for the greater good, but when they retire, they find out it doesn't exist. The manosphere is a rabbit hole. But even feminists are finding out it's one where men go to find happiness and what little freedom they can have within the confines of the system. And they do so by shunning relationships. And those ideas have seeped down to the younger generation. Now, there are many who call themselves teens going their own way. You have MGTOW and TeenTOW. TeenTOW, however, is predominantly you would say, where MGTOW is the counterculture born out of pain, TeenTOW is about avoiding that pain in the first place. And a growing number of teens are saying it may not be true of all women, but they still have the feeling that all women are dangerous. And that it's only a matter of time before one will turn against you. Whether it's personal or to fit in. But many teens feel that it's not just personal, They see it in their lives. They see it in their family. They feel it's scary enough to be a teenage boy with all the pressures of study, to find a job, to then have to fit in with cultural norms set by the opposite sex that offer you nothing but platitudes. That you are stuck in that marriage is nothing but stuck in a perpetual cycle of trying to please someone who is constantly using the threat of leaving you to make you conform to the behaviour that she expects of you. That you are not married to a wife, you're married to a ticking time bomb. Now, there was a blog, and it was reported on. There were MGTOW websites and forums long before Facebook, but they were mostly called men's rights. And most stories that go around the MGTOW fire, camp, circle, whatever you call it, forums, the campfire talk is, most of it started with the older generations. Wife for 40 years, just suddenly deciding she doesn't love you anymore. And just like that, she left. It got nasty and he lost everything. His house, his car, his money. Now technically you hear in advice, oh no, you only lose half. But there's legal fees. And what about the stuff that she takes in the meantime? I know for a fact, during the 70s, 80s and 90s in Australia, and I think it's happened around the world, women would come with their new boyfriends, take what they could that was valuable, empty the bank accounts, then leave. Because it's not a crime. Without any sort of asset register or, anything to prove ownership, you're screwed. They take and take. And boys don't want to go through the bother of building up wealth that's going to be taken off them. More boys are laying flat or just with doing the bare minimum, quiet rebellions of their own, doing the minimum. Some will hang out, but there are so many who have seen their brothers, their fathers, their uncles, grandfathers, go through false allegations in messy breakups. They've seen happy families divided by the statements, oh, you don't know the real him. So teenage boys look at this life that's expected of them and say, no. And it's true. Every breakup, right? You hear nasty stories all the time in the newspapers. Today, you can go through right now, just search terms, older brother dating, older brother breakup, and you'll find stories of breakups where string of allegations are made to police, sugar in the cars, fuel, tyres let down, broken windows, valuables missing. But for the last decade, young men have read these stories and they've basically felt, no, I'm not going to risk this. My brother was a good guy. My father did nothing wrong. My uncle and aunt were over the other day. There was no arguments. Ever. There's no fighting. And then they say, oh, you just went around, It's like there are two different people telling you two different stories. And neither of them will match what you've observed on your own. But more and more men are leaning towards it over and saying, well, he painted a rosy picture because that was the life he wanted. it may be a little exaggerated that everyone has problems, but he understated and she overstated is the most common thing that teens point to and saying, well, he should have seen it coming. You know, she was all too quiet. She was always planning, always going silent when he was around. So teens are picking up quicker on the red flags than older generations. They see it themselves. You date someone for a while, they're all lovey-dovey, then suddenly they're quiet. And they know that's the storm brewing. That's why men, particularly in their 30s, become very suspicious of women in their 30s. They don't want older women. They have bad habits. They had their chance at life as far as they're concerned, and they blew it. But many men have asked themselves, why are young people not happy? Why aren't they seeking future partners? Why aren't they setting any goals for family life? Because so far, the majority says, and the establishment, says, the majority in the establishment, I should say the views don't surprise us. We've been hearing this for a while. It's just social media in the past, and I think so true, social media in the past was more oppressive. There are more platforms now. The competition to keep creators, and even lots of small creators on your platform, is fierce. They want you around. They don't want to monetize us, but they want us around. They want to keep an eye on us. But younger generations have said over and over again, and it's not something you hear common, but if you speak to them, they'll tell you women are chaotic, they're ruthless, and a lot of young men say they have no role models for positive femininity. They rarely see it in celebrities. They rarely see it in sporting stars. Almost every sporting star who's retired gets divorced. So they have nowhere to turn to say, that's a positive family life, because their own family life. How many are, when I was a boy, there was only one single parent on the street, and we had a huge street. Every kid in my class had two parents, except for me. And all the way through high school, it was almost the same thing. Towards the end of high school, the number of my peers who suddenly sat down and says, my parents got divorced. People who used to make fun of me for having one parent are now in the same boat. And by the end of high school, there was only one in my class who still had two parents. It went from me being the only one to the opposite. I'm not blaming my mother. It's no one woman's fault. It's a collective action where women feel distressed, and the only way to fit in to their peer group is to get divorced, to break up, to please the crowd, and they egg each other on. The system is panicking. They are trying to find mentors, teachers, relatives, anyone, sports, anyone who can teach healthy relationships, and it's not working. They've tried teaching healthy relationships in schools. When I got married the first time, there was no marriage class, no relationship education. The second time I got married, mandatory marriage education. Didn't stop my wife from planning her exit, because there's no consequence for her. She just moved in with someone else and got all the benefits, just moved on with her life as if nothing happened. And it's happened to so many men. Both sexes face different challenges, and like I said, women are facing peer pressure to be divorcees. But women have lost sight that men are stuck in a gender war, and it's harming our children. Our children are growing up not wanting to be parents because they do not want to marry someone because they know their mother got divorced, their parent. And the thing is, okay, I've met a lot of women who say, oh no, you just got the wrong end of the stick. Oh, you just married the wrong person. All my wife's friends are divorcees. It's only a matter of time before she's on to the next. My same with my first wife. I don't know how many she'd been through. I just don't. The people you know, and when you find out you don't know them, how are you going to tell your kids how to have a better life? I want a better life for my son, and I just can't tell him how other than MGTOW. Because I look around. There's no one I can point to. There's no promises I can make. This idea of together forever, women won't swear to that. They say it's outdated. So how are you going to tell your son everything he wants is going to be denied to him? And somehow he has to work for that system. A system that is going to do nothing but take and take and take. I've written books with uncomfortable things. Things like an asset register, thought control, a thought police. I know it's not a new concept, but recently I heard that someone said we shouldn't be taxing the poor. I already wrote that back in 2016 in my book. Actually, I'm not sure if I mentioned in which of the 3 original books that I wrote I mentioned it in. But only in my empire, only the rich pay tax. Makes sense. They make the money. What's the point of making money, paying tax on that money, then giving money to and taxing that, and then they give money and tax that, and that gets taxed, and that's it's a wasteful bureaucracy. But I'm getting off track. You should not be surprised that teenage boys don't want to get married. You should not be surprised that teenage boys look at the system and ask where do they fit into a system that is designed to fund foreigners, to fund foreign religions, to fund foreign countries, to give jobs to foreigners. Everything is geared against them. They're told they're racist, they're told they're Nazis, and then you turn around and the system says, oh, now go out and find a wife. How can you have a healthy relationship? They don't, all they want is to, boys figured it out, that all these nasty things is nothing but mean girl browbeating, right? You say something and you say anything other than yes dear, and they browbeat you. And then they go on how historically they were oppressed. Those are just platitudes, sophistry. There is no proof. They cannot point to a single thing and say with absolute certainty. They can't point to any laws. And we've had written laws for thousands of years. They create all these magical mental gymnastics about income inequality. Again, it's all about keeping themselves angry so they can't. And what happens? They become narcissistic, selfish to the extreme. Feel it running around with a chip on the shoulder. The sense of entitlement of feminism is running rife. And what are the teenage boys saying? She is not my problem. I'm not going. How? Yeah, they don't want a girlfriend because they see it as when you get a girlfriend, her problems are all lumped on you. You're expected to solve everything for her. And what does she offer in return? Maybe a peck on the cheek. Maybe a hand holding. Most of the time, boys learn very quickly when a girl puts her hand on your leg. Doesn't mean she wants sex. It means she wants to arouse you so that you'll do something for her in return for nothing. That's what cats do when they want food. They don't beg. They threaten to withhold affection. That's what the touch on the leg is. A threat to withhold affection. You do as I say, and I'll touch you again. But it's nothing but empty promises. We keep hearing about partnerships, love, and all those other things. Trust. But what do you get out of a relationship? Heart attacks, divorce, breakups, fights over petty things, endless nattering about things that are boring, no peace when you want to do anything for yourself, and worst of all, you're going to retire with a 40% pay cut. So everything you built gets taken off you because she doesn't want to take that pay cut. You have to learn to love. That's why they keep running around telling you you will own nothing. Because they've decided that they decided with the declining marriage rate, that means the divorce rate will decline. It means they have to find some other way to get rich. So the new way to get rich, of course, work contracts. Keep you poor. Own all the property. Force up they call it superannuation, so they took all your pay rises and gave it to themselves. Indirectly, of course. They put all the funds into the unions, or the union fees are going to go up. Everything's going to go up. All be pulled into asset management and your retirement funds, and they get rich off them, and you better hope to God that none of these corporations collapse. Yeah, it's a system of paper money. Children have learnt, normally, a sense of give and take, right? You organise a game, you make it mutually beneficial. If it's not, you walk away, right? Play cowboys and Indians. But it's not like, not what you think. I remember as a kid, no one used to have a hissy fit. You got along. You chase one, they chase you. You wrestle. You never hurt anyone. You have a laugh. You never spit on anyone's grave. You don't gleefully dance around when you hear bad news. You'll talk about, but the thing is, delayed gratification. Nope, girls want it now. They want the orgasm, so they stick a big lump of plastic or rubber between their legs. And it escalates from there to various other devices, to the point where they just want an orgasm, they turn a dial, and eventually just sitting there on 11 going, yeah, talking away as if, yeah, because they just bone themselves out. They can't delay, they can't work for anything. They want those shoes, it's got to be now on credit, or they go and actually find a boyfriend to buy it for them. $30,000 handbags. Who's the narcissist, right? But life is not all about self, but try and tell that to a feminist. They always got arguments about oppression. You're just a sexist. You're addicted to the old ways. They've so convinced themselves they have to create a new world. They forgot the myth. You know what happened after the Roman Empire collapsed? You set back civilization 1,000 years. We are on a ticking clock, whether you like it or not. We can't keep putting up with women's bullshit. We cannot keep blaming men. And MGTOW is not men running away from women. It's men walking away from slavery, throwing down tools and going on strike. Because no matter how effective our communication, no matter how genuine our feelings, we are talking to a stone wall of silence and ingratitude and narcissism that believes no matter what, they are always right and that we are always wrong. Until feminism is a stain, a disdained as much as any fascist is, because that's what feminism is. It may not use, it is political violence, just like socialism, all political violence. Yet you'll only disdain one because you were engineered, propagandized to choose a side, when in reality socialism created World War I and II to subjugate Europe, to destroy Christianity, to destroy civilization, so that a handful can perpetuate their wealth for generations through means of control, through systems that would not allow entrepreneurialism from generation to generation to thrive on their own. See, naturally, companies used to rise and fall, You'd be a craftsman, then you retire, other craftsmen take over. No. They created a new, and feminism has created this, a new elite, a new nobility, the corporate, and of course, the corporate class are rewarded with women who'll do anything for money. They're rewarded. The more sociopathic, the more successful. And of course, even then you get carved up. But it doesn't matter. Jeff Bezos said, I lost 20 million. And then, big deal. The numbers are so big. And he doesn't see it or feel it. His income hasn't changed. His lifestyle hasn't declined. Nothing really was lost. It's a phony divorce. And you get to engage in more phony marriages. It's because the rules don't apply to them. They don't apply to you. Now, I'm not blaming Jeff. I blame the government. They created Jeff Bezos. He paid, just like Facebook and many other companies, Microsoft, they pay them $1 million a year to be members of the club. The government shakes them down. The government sets the taxes, sets all the rules. Now, believe me, not believe me, left, right, doesn't matter anymore. It's about men and men walking away. Soon these teenagers will be men. Some of them already are. The movement will only grow. Sure, when there's not enough divorce, men will fall for the trap again. I believe there's been cycles throughout history. It's just that our history is more focused on wars and not... But our social history, according to Heinrich van Loon, is a tumultuous period. But most of that tumultuous period has been, yes, the majority of men throughout history have always been excluded from society. The government has always rounded up large numbers of men and sent them to war merely so they have no competition for power. Because we've seen what happens. You've seen the early history of, say, England. All the wars they had in their early history. It's because men got sick and tired of bad rulers. So bad rulers figured out foreign wars very quickly as a means to get rid of the men they don't want. But then a few men figured out how to get peace. First the Romans. Then the British tried it. Now the Americans are trying it. A war on war. Squash the more violent, the more authoritarian. Wear them down wherever you can. And focus on trade. There are many problems in life. We don't need war. We don't need enough. We've got enough problems to deal with. We've got enough pandemics and diseases to last a lifetime just in the last 5 years. I won't list them all, but you know them. There's a couple going right now. Not all of them are instantly fatal, but they all have their various degrees of lethality, depending on your age, your fitness, the healthcare you have access to. But there are some diseases, like Ebola, for which there's nothing but hope and seed. And it may be like that for another 10 to 20 years. So we don't need war. It's political violence. So many people want to throw off the shackles of various institutions. So MGTOW is going to grow for now. It's going to grow for some time. As with every counterculture, it eventually will become the mainstream. Just like socialism became the mainstream. Socialism is so passé. Look at your socialist thought leaders. Packman, Hassan Piker, Harry Sisson, Barack Obama. They're all rich. They're all champagne socialists. They're all LARPers. They talk about socialist utopia. But you notice, there is no utopia when you have no rights. When you have no borders, nothing, when everything's meaningless, you have no money, you have nothing. No systems, no government, all this other nonsense. No, what do you have? You have death. That's what you have when you have nothing. Without structure, you have no laws. Without laws, you only have anarchy. And when you have anarchy, you have evil. It's simple human logic. There's no utopia. But you can't explain reality to fiends who want power, wealth, and privilege and want to exploit the weak, the vulnerable, the envious, the greedy, the naive against you. And you might actually start to figure out that we change things not for the better when we gave everyone the vote. Should have been only landowners. Should have only been craftsmen. Should have only been the taxpayer. Not the government worker who votes for their own paycheck to be increased. When we took taxes off everyone, didn't fix anything, did it? Just made nicer buildings, bigger buildings. But at the end of the day, what do we have? Less education outcome, more wars. We have unresolved issues for decades now. We have countries that carry on their revolutions for 47 years and go out and routinely kill tens of thousands of their own citizens to prove they're still in power. And Iran's not the only one who does it. South Africa is descending into violence. Europe won't let go of its war with Russia. Socialism, wherever it touches, no matter what form it takes. Liberalism, socialism, communism, Islamism, all collectivism. MGTOW is walking away from all that. It's saying no to oppressive systems where there's no... And it's easy. Oppression's easy. Is there a mutual exchange? Tick. Then it's freedom. That's the closest we get to freedom we'll ever get. Thank you for watching. Please like, share and subscribe. Please support the channel. You support the channel in a number of ways, please. You support me on Ko-Fi, Patreon, for as little as $1 a month. And, of course, buy my books, buy my merch. All my links are in the link tree, description below, in my profile. Scan the QR code on the screen. I really appreciate each and every one of you. See you in the next video, and bye for now.